welcome to the Scholar Progenium. Recently on the channel I got an interesting comment, a question if you will. Which is better, light or heavy autocannons? And as I'm on a little bit of an autocannon kick at the moment myself, I thought, why not make a video? Let's discuss more. So yes chaps, this week we're talking about autocannons, and really if you haven't heard it already, in version 3 autocannons really are becoming the soup du jour. They're in vogue, they're in resurgence, all the cool kids are using autocannons. Well, why is this? There's been a very simple but effective rule change going into version 3 to the autocannon itself, and just in terms of the shooting rules. So in terms of the rule change itself, now instead of being restricted on having to place the autocannon templates right next to each other, touching each other when you hit an infantry squad, instead now you can place the 1-inch autocannon templates wherever you like in that squad, which means you can maximize hits. And if you're getting a couple of hits on an infantry unit, you could be getting 6, if you're really lucky, possibly even more damage rolls. That in itself, although a really cool update, wouldn't be that much to write home about if it didn't combine so well with the new shooting rules for version 3, where you are just that much more likely to get a double hit with your autocannon, allowing you to spread those 2 1-inch templates effectively. And heck, if you've got a Crusader anti-aircraft like this bad boy here, you might even be getting more hits than that, which means you can really start chopping up infantry. On top of this, if that wasn't enough, autocannons have also had a little points decrease to go alongside all of this. So now a light autocannon, just ground mounted, is only going to set you back 35 points, and a heavy autocannon with 4 crew is 50 points. Now before we get too sidetracked, let's get onto the autocannon rules. Let's compare these light autocannons to these heavy autocannons and see if we're getting our points worth by upgrading a light to a heavy. So a light autocannon in terms of range is 48 inches and a heavy autocannon is 72-inch range, which is really useful, and we're going to go more into that in a second. On top of that, they both get 2 shots. The light autocannon is only plus 2 pen, the heavy autocannon is plus 3 pen, so only 1 increase there, and they both get a simple 1-inch HE template. So the heavy autocannon gets no benefit in terms of the HE that it's putting out. Now if we compare these guys in a little more detail, a heavy autocannon comes with 4 crew here, and that means that you're paying 10 points essentially for an extra crewman. So it's only 5 points for that massive range increase, and a nice little plus 1 pen on top of that. And that plus 1 pen is actually a lot of the time plus 2 pen over the light autocannon, which I'll explain now. Now the reason why I say this is that the range kicks in at this point, because although there's no to hit penalties for over half range in bolt action version 3, there is still that penalty for shooting and losing a penetration value for anti-tank weapons such as heavy autocannon, so on and so forth, when you're over half range. What that means is that the light autocannon goes down to a simple pen plus 1 at any target that is over 24 inches. And if that's a vehicle that they're trying to shoot at, if it's a vehicle that's rushing forwards with infantry, that might be the only effective chance they get to shoot at it when it's over 24 inches away before it gets too close. And likewise, if it's fighting against armour, a clever opponent can take that into account and make sure that you're only getting plus 1 pen. If they've got an armour 8 tank, that means they can shoot you, kill off your ground mounted crew, but you can't really do any damage to them. You can put pins on them, but with pen plus 1 at over 24-inch range, you're not going to get through that armour necessarily. And it's going to be really tricky to get through most things. Meanwhile, the heavy autocannon reaches out at a 36-inch half range, having a 72-inch total range. What this means is, if you've got it 12 inches forward on the board deployed, at the edge of your deployment zone. Anything directly in front of it, the second it enters the board, with the board being 48 inches wide, is within threat range. And if they want to come on any kind of distance and you're relatively centrally positioned, you're generally going to be hitting stuff straight away within the half range. That means you're hitting on a pen +3. All of a sudden, those light tanks are in real danger. Those transports are in real danger. You're going to be knocking them out super easily. Not only that, but from a ground mount perspective, you can't reposition your light autocannon, which means that you've got much less capacity to shoot things that are on the flanks, or if you're positioned on a flank, you can't shoot that far past the centre and cover the whole sort of board. With a heavy autocannon, as long as you can see the unit, as a general rule, you can take a shot. Even if you are over half range, if you're shooting at infantry, that doesn't matter. If they've got a squad on the backboard spraying away with some LMGs, you can hammer them with your heavy autocannon, no problem whatsoever. You don't care about the reduction in pen, but you can certainly hit them. Now, the range thing seems like the obvious benefit here, and being able to hit more targets from further away. But for me, again and again in the games that I'm playing, having that +3 pen out to 36-inch range is just invaluable. That is the big selling point. And for 5 points extra, if you think about it in terms of the weapon system itself, because you're getting an extra crewman on top of that, it's just a no-brainer for me. It's absolutely worth the points to take that heavy autocannon position instead of a light autocannon. Maybe you want to be getting loads and loads of dice in the bag. In that case, you go for it. But just pound for pound, I think the heavy autocannon is well worth the investment. That's not to say light autocannons are a total waste of points. For me, there's almost two different objectives here with the two different weapon systems. A light autocannon is very good at killing infantry and able to target vehicles if you so wish. Now, a heavy autocannon is able to effectively deal with vehicles, and you're shooting at infantry as a secondary target. Although it's just as effective at shooting infantry, I take heavy autocannons in my list so I can threaten armoured transports and light tanks as well as soft skins and infantry, whereas a light autocannon really is only going to be reliably effective against soft skin vehicles and of course infantry. However, with all that being said, things do get a little more interesting when we mount our autocannons onto a vehicle. For example, the Panzer II here, or the Crusader III AA Mark II that I have right here. Or of course, we've got the Auto Blinder, or what I call the Auto Blender, the Italian armoured car here. Now, these all have light autocannons. That's not to say you can't get heavy autocannons on armoured vehicles, but light autocannons are generally what you're going to find. And they are very effective because of the manoeuvrability on the vehicle. That really changes the game entirely. You see, ground-mounted autocannons, they get the firing arc that's given to them, you might say. In that if you're trying to target an opponent's vehicle, your opponent can position that vehicle based on where you're positioned, but you can't position your autocannon any further based on where their vehicle is positioned or has moved to. And what that means is you're often going to be, you're basically always going to be having to shoot through that heavy armour, unless you're getting angles on them and you're forcing them to position where you can shoot them in the side. If they're trying to avoid being shot by that heavy autocannon or light autocannon that's ground mounted, they're going to put their front armour against you. However, with the manoeuvrability of the vehicle-mounted light autocannon with 12-inch move on an armoured car, 9-inch move on a light tank, for example, you're going to be able to get those side shots. You can position to get them in the side. And what that means is, hey presto, you've gained back a penetration value in that their armour is going to be weaker on the side. It could be extra weak on the side. Let's say you're shooting at a Stuart that's got armour 9 on the front, but armour 7 on the side if it's the M5. Maybe you're shooting at a Panther, armour 10 on the front, nothing you can do about that. Armour 8 on the side, if you get lucky, you might get a glance against it. Now, I'm not saying going and it's a good idea to go hunting Panthers with these bad boys, but I'm just saying that you can do that hunting. It's certainly an available option to you. And that brings these light autocannons up to a par in terms of anti-vehicle capacity when they're mounted on a vehicle with the heavy autocannon that's ground mounted, just because you're going to seek out those side shots and get more of them. On top of that, because you're mobile, of course you're going to be able to get within range of your half range much more easily. You can chase them down and get within that 24-inch range, and then you're not losing any pen value. Shooting a vehicle in the side from within 24-inch range is just as good as shooting a vehicle in the front from within 36-inch range of the heavy autocannon, and it's much more achievable with your vehicle mounted options. One thing as a bonus tip that I've really been enjoying recently is driving up danger close within point blank range of my opponent's units and just hosing them down with autocannon tanks. If you manage to drive this Crusader up to within 6 inches, that's 4 shots on 3s. They can't go down, that's not going to help them. Maybe they'll get cover. If you've managed to position yourself where they're not even getting cover, that's an infantry squad gone most of the time, or just absolutely ruined. If you're shooting at weapons teams, you're just annihilating them. They're just gone. You can just get right up into their faces. Of course, that means you've got to take care of the enemy anti-armor capabilities, but if you've done that, once the route is clear, and if you sort of play with that in mind, then yeah, these guys, when they get up close, point blank range, you sort of drive in to, let's say, a pair of mortars, spray one up on 3s, get a couple of hits, wipe one mortar out, next turn, activate again, hitting the next one on 2s, that one's gone too. Just absolutely nasty. They're really, really ruthless up close. So that's one thing I'm really loving about vehicle mounted light autocannons right now. It's just going absolutely crazy, getting right in the opponent's face and just spraying them up at point blank range. Cannot recommend it enough. So I'm not going to waffle on any longer tonight. It's pretty straightforward for me in the light versus heavy autocannon question. Ground mounted, heavy autocannons all the way. Vehicle mounted, I'm more than happy to go on the hunt with some light autocannons nice and cheap. Let me know what you think in the comments section down below. Are autocannons underpriced now? Have you been absolutely flattened by someone running autocannon spam? I'm interested to hear your thoughts. If you like what we do here, you've enjoyed this video tonight, give us a like and a subscribe. It really helps the channel out, and it makes sure you don't miss out on all of our weekly bolt action content. And of course, a massive thank you to all of our members. It really helps the channel out. We honestly could not do it, keep this channel ticking over, without you guys' support. So I hope you found this video interesting and entertaining. This has been the Scholar Progenium. Thank you very much for your time. Goodbye.